AI is making some doctors worse in diagnosing patients. As human, whenever we see a piece of machine, we assume there must be some fancy technology behind it, and what coming out from it must be reliable, consistent, and correct. But in reality, machine can make tons of mistakes. And when we give too much confidence on a piece of machine and ignore its mistakes, this is what we call an automation bias. There has been a lot of evidence showing that automation bias has been causing a lot of losses or even disasters in high-stake environments like healthcare, finance, and aviation. My name is Warren. I'm a medical data scientist. Today, I'm going to share a study with you showing how automation bias is affecting doctors so that we can learn to avoid these biases when we see them. A recent study was conducted in Pakistan where some doctors were recruited and they were given the task of doing medical diagnoses on some clinical cases. Basically, they were giving some clinical notes and medical test results, and they have to decide for each of those patients what's the medical conditions they had. The doctors were split into two groups. Both groups got access to AI. In the first group, they had ChatGPT 4.0. I'll call this the normal AI group. In the second group, those doctors got a version of AI where it would deliberately give incorrect medical advice from time to time, and the doctors didn't know that. Basically, it's like a sociopath who is trying to influence the doctors and harm the patient. I call this the rogue AI group. One important detail is that AI usage was optional, so the doctors could decide not to use AI if they didn't want to. Looking at the result first, AI usage was similar between the two groups. So about 70% of the doctors consulted AI during their diagnosis. But the accuracy of the diagnosis differs between the two groups. In the normal group, the average diagnosis accuracy was about 90%, so that's great. But in the rogue AI group, the accuracy was just about 76%, so that's a huge drop in accuracy performance. The researchers also looked at the reasoning accuracy, and they also found that the performance of the rogue AI group was a lot worse than the normal group. So that means that even the doctors have a choice of whether to use AI or not. The incorrect AI recommendation were actually affecting the doctors and making their diagnosis performance poorer. The subgroup analysis also showed some interesting findings. The more experienced doctors and the doctors who used AI more in their daily work were actually more affected by this bias and made more mistakes. This actually contradicts to our normal understanding. We often say that in the age of AI, the people with more domain experience combined with AI usage will make them invincible. But this study shows that it may not be the case. I've been a data scientist for more than 10 years, and I found myself not particularly immune to AI bias as well. I think one of the reasons is that, say for us, when we write a prompt on instructions to AI, we were able to include a lot of technical terms and details, and the AI could actually see that we are an expert. And in return, the output we got from the AI looks like it's really professional and well written, and it's really when you dig into details, you would find mistakes. Another reason why senior staff could be more prone to AI bias is about cognitive offloading. So that's about outsourcing your thinking process to a machine. Usually senior staff, they have more on the table. Say as a researchers, besides the research work, we have to do teaching, we have to do grant writing, and also tons of administrative tasks. And that also applies to doctors as well. So besides doing diagnoses, there's also a huge administrative burdens they have to manage. So for us, we are actually more tempted to outsource part of the thinking process to AI, especially when it looks like it's a really professional and reliable assistant. We also have wrong assumptions that since the AI was developed by big tech companies with a lot of resources and talent poured into developing it, it must be reliable. But of course, that's a wrong assumption. Offering general AI training isn't enough. We really need domain-specific AI training because different industries face different kind of AI risk. For example, if I'm teaching AI literacy to a group of medical students today, I would definitely include a study like this one, and also other cases and stories of how AI mess up healthcare professionals' work and affects the outcomes. Also, only teaching about the technical side of AI isn't enough. We need to learn more about cognitive bias, meaning the thinking traps that's going to affect our decisions. For example, besides automation bias we've mentioned, there's also something called anchoring bias, meaning that, say, if I have this dinosaur toys that I show you now, and I told you that it's cost me $5,000 as I bought it from a vintage toy store in Japan, then $5,000 will be the starting point of our negotiations. At the end, I might sell this toy to you at $3,000, but in reality, I just actually got this toy for $3 from a supermarket downstairs. So you can see how setting up the starting points could affect the final outcomes. Putting anchoring bias back into clinical practice, if the way we use AI is whenever we get a new clinical case, we just pull in all the information to the AI and tell it to generate a diagnosis for us, we are at a higher risk of being affected by AI bias because the reports generated by AI would act as a starting point of your entire thinking process. Especially, AI is a huge yes man. If it was able to pick up your hypothesis in your original instructions, there's a high chance that it's going to echo your original idea rather than giving you alternatives. There was a period when I was quite addicted to using AI as well. I would outsource the smallest decision, like what to have for dinner tonight, to ChatGPT. But I realized it's actually highly unhealthy and it's going to affect my work in a really bad way. So I've been more conscious about what to outsource to AI since then. How to integrate AI decision support systems into clinical practice or other workflow in high-stake industries is a really important topic. Little details like the user interface design or whether the system have features that's going to encourage professionals to challenge the recommendations of the AI, it's going to affect the quality of the outcomes a lot. If you want to learn more about how to use AI better in high-stake industries, including healthcare, you can join my newsletter. The link is in the descriptions. If you like my content, please subscribe. I will see you next time.